For 20 minutes, my heart did not beat. 20 minutes. Machines flatlined. Doctors called the time. And in that stretch of nothing, I was more alive than I had ever been in 58 years of walking this earth. I want to tell you what happened to me, not because I need you to believe every word. You can take what helps you and leave the rest. But because I promised somebody on the other side that I would tell it. So here I am. My name is Marilyn, and this is my testimony. I want to start before the dying part, because I think it matters. I think you need to know who I was before, so you understand who I became after. I was raised in church. Grandmother took me every Sunday in a dress that itched, hair pressed and pulled back so tight my eyebrows lifted. I knew the hymns before I could read the words. I knew the Lord's Prayer, the 23rd Psalm, John 3:16. All of it, memorized, recited, performed. But somewhere between childhood and 58, my faith turned into a habit instead of a relationship. I want to be honest with you about that, because I think a lot of us are living that same quiet truth, and we don't say it out loud in polite company. By the time I was in my 50s, my knees had started to go. Arthritis, the doctor called it. Both knees, bone on bone, they said, waiting on a surgery date that kept getting pushed back. And here's a small thing that became a big thing in my spirit. I could not kneel anymore. Not at the altar, not beside my bed the way my grandmother taught me, not anywhere. And somewhere in my heart, without anyone ever saying it to me directly, I had absorbed this belief, this quiet lie, that prayer done sitting down wasn't real prayer, that if I wasn't on my knees, God wasn't really hearing me, that if I couldn't get low enough, humble enough, positioned right, I was just talking to the ceiling. So I stopped praying like I used to. I would sit in my recliner in the evenings, television on low, and I would think about praying, and then I would feel this shame creep in, this sense that if I couldn't get down on that floor, what was even the point? And prayer became something I did quickly, quietly, almost apologetically, sitting in that chair, feeling like a second-class Christian who couldn't even do the one thing right. I tell you all of that because it matters for what comes next. It was a Tuesday morning in March. I remember because I had just put a pot roast in for Sunday, 3 days early, because I like to prep on Tuesdays. That's just who I am, a planner, a doer, somebody who likes things in order. I was standing at my kitchen counter, and I felt this pressure in my chest, like somebody had set a cinder block right on top of my sternum. My left arm went numb. I remember thinking, very calmly, almost like I was watching myself from outside my own body. This is a heart attack. This is what they warn you about. I made it to the phone. I called 911. I remember the operator's voice, steady, asking me questions, and I remember answering her, and then I remember nothing. Nothing at all. Not blackness, I want to be precise about this, not blackness like closing your eyes. Just absence. Like a page had been torn out of a book and there was no page there at all, not even a blank one. And then there was light. I know that sounds like exactly what you'd expect somebody to say, and maybe you're already deciding what you think about that. I understand. I would have thought the same thing once. But I am telling you what happened, not what makes a good story. The light did not blind me. That's the strange part. Light that bright should have blinded me, should have hurt. The way you squint driving into a sunset. This didn't hurt. It felt like the first time you step outside after being sick in a dark room for a week. Like relief. Like your whole body remembering what it feels like to not be in pain. And I realized, standing there, because I was standing, on legs that did not ache, on knees that did not grind bone against bone, I realized I felt no pain anywhere. Not the chest pain, not the knee pain I'd carried for 6 years, nothing. I looked down at my hands. They were my hands, but younger somehow. Not younger like vanity, not younger like wrinkles gone, just younger like they had shed something heavy they'd been carrying. I want you to understand, I am not exaggerating when I tell you the first thought I had was, I can kneel now. And that's when I saw him. I don't know how to describe a man who is also somehow more than a man, without sounding like I'm reaching for words too big for me. But I will try, because I promised I would try. He was not glowing like a special effect. He was not wearing white robes like a painting. He was present. That's the word. More present than anyone I had ever stood in front of in my whole life. When you have stood in front of somebody who loves you completely, somebody who has never once, not for 1 second, looked at you with anything but tenderness, that's the closest I can get. Except multiply that 1,000 times, and you're still not close. He knew my name before I said it. He said, Marilyn. Just that. Just my name. And I want to tell you, I have heard my name spoken by my mother, by my husband, by my children. I have heard my name said in love my whole life. And I had never once heard it said the way he said it. Like it was the only word that mattered. Like he had been waiting a long time to say it. I did what my body wanted to do before my mind even caught up. I went down. I went down onto my knees in front of him, the way I used to as a girl before the arthritis took that from me. The way I had grieved not being able to do for 6 long years. And I remember feeling this flood of, I don't even know if relief is a big enough word. Feeling like I had finally gotten it right. Like I was finally praying the way I was supposed to. Like this was the posture God had wanted from me all along, and I had spent 6 years failing him from that recliner. And this is where I need you to really listen, because this is the whole reason I'm standing here telling you this story. He reached down, and I felt his hand, real, warm, solid, nothing like a dream, and he lifted me back up to standing. And he said, "Why are you down there?" And I said, I remember stammering it out, because I couldn't do this anymore. On earth, my knees, I couldn't kneel. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I prayed sitting down for so long. I know it wasn't enough. And he looked at me, and I wish I could give you the look. I wish I could hand you the look he gave me. Because it wasn't disappointment, and it wasn't even correction exactly. It was something closer to sorrow. Like I had grieved him. Not by sitting down. By believing that sitting down meant I loved him less. He said, Marilyn, I never asked for your knees. I asked for your heart. And then, and this is the part I've turned over in my mind every single day since, he showed me something. I don't know if showed is even the right word, because it wasn't like a movie playing in front of me. It was more like I was suddenly inside of it, the way you're inside a memory that isn't yours. I saw my own recliner, my own living room. Evenings I had almost forgotten, nights after my husband passed, when the house got so quiet I could hear the refrigerator hum from 2 rooms away. I saw myself sitting there, exhausted, knees throbbing, guilty, whispering prayers I thought were too small, too sloppy, too seated to count. Lord, just get me through tomorrow. Lord, watch over my daughter. She hasn't called in a week and I'm scared for her. Lord, I don't even know what to ask for. I'm just tired. And in that vision, I saw something I had never seen with my own eyes, because I wasn't looking for it, because I had convinced myself it wasn't there. I saw him, sitting with me, not standing over me waiting for me to get low enough to earn his attention, sitting beside me in that recliner, in that ordinary living room, in that housecoat I'm embarrassed to admit I wore for 3 days straight some weeks. He was there the whole time. Every single prayer I whispered sitting down, ashamed, thinking it didn't count. He had been right there catching every word like it was the most important thing said that day. He said to me, "Do you think I only lean in when you kneel? Do you think I measure what's in your heart by what your knees are doing?" And I wept. I want to tell you, wherever I was, whatever that place was, I wept in a way I had never wept on earth. Not grief weeping, but the kind of weeping that comes from finally putting down something heavy you didn't know you were carrying. He showed me more. He showed me a young man in a wheelchair, praying from a chair he would sit in his whole life, and the prayer rising up from that young man in that chair looked exactly the same as the prayer of a monk, kneeling on a stone floor in some monastery I've never seen. He showed me a mother nursing a baby at 2 a.m, praying with her eyes half closed, too tired to form full sentences, and that broken, sleepy prayer rose up just as bright, just as heard, as any prayer prayed on 2 strong knees in a quiet sanctuary. He showed me a man in a hospital bed, tubes in his arms, unable to move anything but his lips, mouthing, "Help me." And that 2-word prayer landed in heaven with the same weight as any hour-long intercession ever spoken by anybody, anywhere. He said, "Posture was never the message, Marilyn. Presence is the message. I do not sit at a distance grading your body. I sit beside you, in whatever position your body will allow, and I listen for your heart." And then he said something that I have not been able to stop thinking about since. He said, "The enemy does not care if you pray. The enemy only cares if you believe your prayer doesn't matter. Every time you told yourself your sitting prayer wasn't real, you silenced yourself. And every time you silenced yourself, you stopped talking to me. Not because your knees failed you, but because you let shame convince you that I required something I never required. I stood there, because by then I was standing, and it didn't feel wrong to be standing, it felt like exactly where I was supposed to be. And I asked him, then why did I feel like I needed to kneel the second I saw you? And he smiled, and I want you to know, a smile like that could heal every wound you've ever carried, just from witnessing it. And he said, because reverence is a gift you give from a full heart, not a debt you pay to earn my love. Here, you kneel because you're overwhelmed with joy, not because you're afraid I won't hear you otherwise. On earth, when your body could not kneel, and you sat instead with a heavy heart, reaching for me anyway, that was reverence too. That took more faith, not less. You reached for me while believing you weren't doing it right. That's a kind of love I treasure, Marilyn. That's a wounded, honest, sitting down love, and I have never once turned it away. I don't know how long that lasted. Time didn't work there the way it works here. But at some point, he told me I had to go back, and I did not want to go. I want to be honest with you about that too. I did not want to leave that place, that light, that presence. But he told me there were people who needed to hear what he had shown me. He told me, and this part I remember word for word because it has been etched into me since the moment I heard it. He said, tell them I am not waiting at the altar for their knees. I am sitting beside them in their chairs, in their cars, in their hospital beds, in their kitchens, at 2 a.m, and I am listening. Tell them their sitting down prayers reach me exactly the same as their kneeling down prayers. Tell them to stop measuring their faith by what their body can do, and start measuring it by whether they're still reaching for me at all. And then I was back. Machines screaming, a nurse's hands on my chest, my own eyes flying open to fluorescent hospital lights that felt, after where I'd been, almost cruelly dim. 20 minutes gone. 20 minutes the doctors could not explain, could not account for, could not chart. My husband, my second husband, I should say, since I lost my first, was standing there sobbing, and my daughter, the one who hadn't called in a week, was standing right beside him, because it turned out she'd been driving to see me that very morning, before any of this even happened, before she even knew. I share that detail not to prove anything to you, because I know good and well there's no proving a thing like this. I share it because it's true, and because it mattered to me, that even the ordinary threads of my life were already being woven together before I understood why. Here is what I want to leave you with, and then I'll sit back down, because, and there's something almost funny about this now, my knees still ache. The surgery still hasn't happened. I still can't kneel the way I used to. But I don't grieve that anymore, not one bit. Because I learned something on the other side of 20 minutes that I wish somebody had told me 40 years ago. God is not auditing your posture. He is not standing at a distance with a checklist, deciding whether your prayer counts based on whether your knees hit the floor, whether your hands are folded just right, whether you're in a church pew or a hospital bed, or a recliner with the television murmuring behind you. He is listening for you, not your posture, you. If you are sitting somewhere right now, in a chair because your body won't let you kneel, in a car because that's the only quiet 5 minutes you get all day, in a bed because you're too sick or too tired or too heartbroken to do anything but lie there and whisper, I need you to hear this the way I heard it. Your prayer counts. It is not smaller because you're sitting. It is not lesser because you're tired. It is not weaker because you couldn't get the words out in full sentences. He is already there beside you. He was there before you started praying. And he will still be there long after you've finished, whether you finished on your knees or in your chair or with your eyes closed at a red light on your way to somewhere you didn't want to go. I don't know why I got to come back and you're still here listening to somebody else's story about the other side. Maybe it's so I could tell you this one thing. Stop apologizing for how you pray. Just pray. Sitting down, standing up, lying flat on your back, staring at a ceiling you can't seem to leave. Just keep reaching. He has never once required you to earn your way to him. He has always, always been reaching back. That's my testimony. That's what he showed me. And I've told it exactly the way I promised I would.